Good afternoon. Deconstruction and example. We're going to talk about the example, how we can deconstruct a text using the theoretical assumptions, theoretical ideas we have already acquired through the whole explanation, different types of or different definitions of deconstruction. We know how it works out now. Okay, so post-structuralism as a theory, and when you go for it or bring it into a practical level, we can talk about that to be deconstruction. Normally in theory we do not go that. We do not mention it using separate terms. Like feminism as a movement, if you analyze a text on behalf of feminist theory, it's feminist analysis of the text, that's all. But here it's going to be post-structuralism as a theory when you make use of the tenets of the theory, the assumptions of the theory, the major ideas of the theory, and if you bring that into practical level for reading a text in a different way, you call that to be deconstruction. The process is termed as deconstruction, a separate term you get there. So that is the first idea. And I read the poem, the last class we read the whole poem by Dylan Thomas. A refusal to mourn the death by fire of a child in London. So we do not have to go for a line by line. Anyway, we are not going to read this line by line. Reading is not preferable in the case of this part, because this is not about theory, but a kind of analysis. You are getting example for the method to do that. So this poem you have to take this step. Another poem you may have to do in another way. So this is not about any way. You cannot expect that to be a question for examination. But even then, it's really good and preferable that you take, this is a practical, you see how it works out. Okay, yes. So, I told you verbal, textual and linguistic stages and how these work out. How they work out. Okay. Yes. So, verbal stage, told you it's almost about close reading. That looks for the paradoxes and the contradictions. And close reading is an idea that we take from new criticism. Usually it's from new criticism. There is a close reading of the text. On just one paragraph, one or two paragraphs or one or two lines, you are spending too much time to find out what is there, which is in one way it is an incongruity. You project like you express like saying something, but you mean something entirely different. That's what you mean by that's where these contradictions occur. That's where the paradoxes occur. And we know how to take that. So you need a close reading of the text. Otherwise you won't be able to find it out. That may be there, but you miss that out. So verbal stage, if you are deconstructing a text at the, you are going through the verbal stage, the features of the verbal stage if you are using, you have to go for a close reading of the text. Maybe with a poem with more than 15 stanzas, you may not get a paradox in the first stanza, you may not get it at a second stanza. The third stanza also you may not see a paradox or contradiction. Maybe at the end line and the end part of the poem you may come across this. So that I told you, verbal stage, the features you cannot access it at the very beginning or in one or two reading you will not be able to access. We will see that. And textual reading, a textual stage means it's about the overall view for the poem. The overall view means it's not about a you are not concentrating just on one or two paragraphs or passages. You are looking at the poem completely well. As I read it completely, now you know how it looks like. The major themes that might have, our attention might have been there on certain points like death, refusal, mourning. When you look at the title of the poem itself, you might be having an idea what at a basic level what it tells about. Okay, so that's about. And in linguistic stage we know as usual the linguistic features like overall shift, break, linguistic features we know. The shift in tenses, personal pronouns or all those details we try to. Okay, so linguistic stage, linguistic as a branch of study. We know how it works out and how we can make use of certain language features, linguistic features, to see how different a reading we can come up with. So, first thing you have to keep in mind is, again this I emphasize, you take a poem, and we have three different stages: verbal, textual, linguistics. Those work in different ways, or those adopt different measures to deconstruct a text. You cannot say that the poem I am going to read, you have to make use of all the three stages all together for the deconstructed reading. Some poems, just with the verbal stage, you may be able to come up with an entirely different reading of the text. Sometimes with the textual stage will be enough. You don't have to be in search of paradoxes or contradictions. Possibilities are there, but certain poems are there which demand all the three stages to deconstruct that. One stanza you may come across some paradoxes, contradictions, so that you are looking at the verbal stage. The deconstruction process goes through, move through the verbal stage. Some point you see the overall view of the poem only will help to come up with a deconstructed reading. Then you analyze at the textual stage. Next some other stanzas get you some linguistic quirks and all. Something which is told beyond what is there available already. So you analyze it at the linguistic stage. Okay, so this is what is going to happen. And verbal stage, as I read the poem already, I am not going to read it again, project it again, but you just look at what I say here regarding the first part or verbal stage. How Dylan Thomas' poem, A Refusal to Mourn the Death by Fire of a Child in London. Let us see. Very similar to close reading. Verbal stage, the detail you get as an explanation here, it's very familiar to close reading. It's already told. Don't worry about that. Now it involves looking at in the text form paradoxes and contradictions. Now let us see how we can see some contradictions or paradoxes in this poem. Okay, so first paradox they find out, as I already told you, is at the final line of the poem. It's not at the first line, first stanza, but in the final line of the poem. I am going to read that final line for you. After the first death, there is no other. This is the final line of the poem. You can look at that later. You have the text, beginning theory text with you. You can look at the poem later. So the final line, you can see, after the first death, there is no other. What's wrong with that? After the first death, there is no other. Hope you can see that in the file. After the first death. Please move the file. After the first death, there is no other. What's wrong with that statement? After the first death, there is no other. Okay. I will tell you. This is a classroom with let us see, some 5 students. 5 students are there in this class. And after once a teacher conducts an examination or a quiz competition. Teacher conducts a quiz competition. And see, according to the marks you get, see, she categorizes as you are first, then you second, you are third. See, the positions are assumed because you have more than one person, so that you can be assigned the position like first, second, third, if you want fourth and fifth. According to the mark you can distribute that, or if you can be assigned the position. Okay, but what about this particular line? It says like after the first death, there is no other. Okay, just wait. Yes. So first part it is about the first mentioning, it goes like the verbal stage, final line, after the first that there is no other, that is statement contradicts and refuting itself. How it happens, I told you how it happens, because the reason is, if you have some position like first, you are supposed to have second and third, so definitely the statement contradicts itself. First point. And then you talk about the combination until and never, never until, and how it is problematic in the mode of you have a negative there, and then you talk about a positive term like until, then obviously it means that something is going to happen, something is going to continue, you can expect something, so that also is a problematic combination. Okay, yes. Then another facet of post-structuralism, I told you about the reversal of the binary, reversal of binary oppositions like male female, day night, light dark, male female. You have the tendency to say like male female. Why it is not female male? Why it is day and night? Why it can't be night and day? Because already, yeah, daytime we have light and also that is something better. Night is with the dark and you don't have light, so it's problematic. So this is the assumption that we take too much for granted. And we are not, in no way we are, see, deliberately if you go, it's possible. Otherwise, consciously or unconsciously, we have the tendency to follow the order, Jack and Jill. We never say Jill and Jack. It's obviously about a rhythm. It's okay, it's very innocent. But male, female, if you follow the binary, if you follow the order, it's not that naive, it's not that innocent. Okay, so that is the first point, day, night, light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. When you say that, it's very innocent, not that problematic. But light and dark, you think about that in the context of all the racial issues, colonial exploitation. So how does this light and dark, how does this light as a term, as a concept, take the first position you just see? Then you can understand this is not that innocent as we assume. It's not that innocent. Okay, so that now it's our turn, or the deconstructionist critic, they take it as their duty to challenge these binary oppositions. Like, so that the second term rather than the first is privileged. Now you try to reverse the binary, the power structure of the binary, so that the second term, instead of female gets a prominence. You try deliberately, you try to refer female in the beginning. Female, male. When you mention someone, you try to make like Mr. and Mrs. You have the tendency when you just take all the invitation letters. You can see Mr. and Mrs. Everywhere it's Mr. and Mrs. Do you think that this is very innocent? No. It's very deliberate. It's highly, it is loaded with the meanings of all the power structures of all the era, all the eons and eons. We have been practicing, you have been continuing with the, giving yourself to those ideas. We never thought about that, but we have, once we start thinking, you can see all these problems occurring everywhere. Our language is not at all innocent. It is contributing again and again to the power structures, the colonial masters, because this is a male centered language. That's why everywhere it's chairman. Now it's chairperson, a gender neutral term, that's there. But only after our assuming, or only after our discussion of all these theories and problems and the aspects of language and how it contributes to this power structures, we started challenging the binaries, at least to make gender neutral terms. That's very important. To take the gender neutral terms like chairperson, it's okay, fine. Person belonging to any gender, chairperson, it's okay. Now we have postwoman, postman separately. Otherwise it's always postman. Why? A woman taking the position. it goes back to the denial of professional life for women even. Why should there be a term like postwoman? Because women are not supposed to be carriers of letters and all. So there was a time where you were inside the four corners of kitchen. Now situation is changing, so the academic discussions occur. So turning the reversal of the binaries, it's very important. Deliberately, deconstructionist critics do this. So we can see the privilege going to the second term and how important it is. Let us see in the poem. Thus, in the poem of Dylan Thomas, it seems to be darkness rather than light, which is seen as engendering life. Just think about night and day. Some people are there who are worried about night time because there is no light everywhere. It's a horrible atmosphere. During night time, maximum you try to be at home. You go back to home during night, you sleep there, and you don't wander here and there unless and until you have some urgencies. You are at home during night. The major idea of your having shelters, home, house, the building, at least a flat, whatever it may be, the idea goes like you are taking shelter because this is a very rooted idea in us to be worried about night, darkness. And what is happening in Dylan Thomas' poem is the reversal of this binary, challenging of this concept, like it seems to be darkness rather than light as engendering life. Here I will read out the poem, the certain lines from the poem. Bird, beast and flower, fathering and all humbling darkness, tells with a silence the last light breaking and the still hour is come of the sea tumbling in harness. Means fathering of all humbling darkness. Darkness, during darkness, night time, the flowers bloom, even human reproduction, all those, see, the activities, all those happen during night. And why are you saying that? Night is very problematic. It's lifeless. It's without activities. You just see almost all the flowers bloom during night. So that's an engendering life activity. It's a process that engenders life. Yes. So mankind making bird, beast and flower, fathering and all humbling darkness or humbling darkness. So during darkness you can see all the activities. I will say another, I will get you a quote from another, one of the best novels. I will say you, Life of Pi, you have this. It's very, it's a foolishness to call night dark with all the stars on the sky. It's a deconstruction. It's a thought that is completely rooted in deconstruction. We always call night dark. How dare do you call night dark with all the, it possesses all the stars. Did you ever think about that possibility? So this is the problem with our looking just from one point, from one angle. Then you see only darkness. But who will talk about the stars on the sky during night? Okay, so sun is not here, the daylight, okay, it's not there, but how dare do you call night dark when it possesses all the stars all together? Moonlight as well. So this is the way we have the assumptions which are heavily rooted in our basic ideas which are already taken for granted for all the while. And when the point at which we start thinking differently, you become a deconstructionist critic. Okay, so here you see here what the poet writes. He says that it seems to be darkness rather than light which is seen as engendering life. It seems to be darkness rather than light. It's not during light. During daytime all these flowers bloom. All the bird, beasts and mankind all make their lifelike activities. It's during night time. And why are you talking about night to be very lifeless and all? So deconstruction, as I told about night and the stars and how it is not really dark. we assume it to be dark. We just look it at the surface point of view, from the surface point of view. That's a problem. And this paradox reflects the way the world of the sperm is simultaneously a recognizable version of the world we live in. The paradox reflects the way the world of the sperm is simultaneously a recognizable version. It assumes a universal point of view. Like we all think in terms of this night and the essential darkness. Like during night time, you don't have immediate sunlight as such. So you call it to be dark. It's not that good because you have all the life and all the activities, all the positive things happening during night. So why should you always miss out that point? So this is the recognizable version of the world we live in. We have the tendency to look at things from this kind of a very surface, or you are just closing your eyes in front of that reality. There is a reality as such. Even without taking much effort and pain, you can access you could have thought about this possibility to see the positive aspects of night. But you always have the tendency to keep it closed as such. Okay, yes. Now, an inversion of that word. It's about an inversion. Now you start thinking about the life activities, flowers, birds, flower blooming and unfolding into full bloom. All those are very highly lifelike activities. And why should you blame night in this way? It's an inversion of our rooted thoughts till date. Okay. And for deconstruction, such movements are symptomatic of the way language doesn't reflect or convey our world, but constitutes a world of its own. See, in this way, just in terms of language, night is night. Night time without daylight, so that it's dark. Daytime, it's with the light, so it's good. So we just get that point. And it is not about a recording. It's not a reflection of the world. It's not just it's not a reflection. Even the mirror reflection you can rely, but not even that you get. It's just a constituted idea, which you took it for granted, you took for granted because it was given by the power structures. It was assumed by or it was disseminated by the power structures. That is the only point. Otherwise, it's going to be a highly contradictory notion that to call this night with all the positive activities, lifelike activities, the stars, you call it dark, and you assume, you attribute all the negative aspects like fear, worry, terror, all that on night. Why should you do that? So this is the way you can go for inversion of your thought even. And this is again a kind of example, a demonstration of how we can go wrong in we think that this is very innocent way of thinking, like night to be dark, day to be daytime, it's very positive and all. But we, in one way or other, we contribute to such blindly shutting eyes in front of certain already existing realities. It's not about after deconstruction started talking about the issues that night started holding these stars or the lifelike activities. No, every time it has been there, but we didn't think about it. The way we talk about glossing over the text, we miss out the points. And so such paradoxical phrases, first step, it's a first step in going against the grain of the poem. If you just look at the grain of the poem, if you try to talk about the grain of the poem, it is just about death and death. It's about death, refusal to mourn, some child is dead. A poet or then as a speaker talks about the refusal to mourn on the part, and again it's a simple idea like it's by fire the child is dead. That's all what you get from the basic surface level reading. But here we are trying to see it in a different plane using the paradoxes, contradictions and all. So first step is to going against the grain of the poem. So death is definitely not just the grain of the poem. Definitely one point may be death, but that is not the only point of this poem. It talks about life also. Life and death, these are two diametrically opposite ideas if you talk. But in the poem that is talking at a basic level, if you assume that talks about death, but now we can see it it's talking about life, activities. Even see at night even, which we took for a long while, we took night to be really problematic, terror, horrorful. So it's problematic an idea. It has been an idea that we took for granted for so longer a time. And reading against itself, showing the signifier at war with the signified. Signifier is something that you take as at a surface level, and now you can see that signifier is at war with the signified and revealing its repressed unconscious. Revealing the repressed unconscious. If you start thinking about that repressed unconscious of the poem, may be life, not death, as it talks. If the conscious, if you want to talk about the poem, it is just death, because the title, we have the tendency to look at the title and assume the meaning reading to be that only. We never think in terms of other possibilities even. We just try to take that for granted. But that is not the case. It's going to be the very repressed unconscious is out, and you see many points are there which we have some entirely different readings possible. Get the idea? Yes. So this is the way that particular stage, that is the verbal stage of the poem, comes to an end. So all these points are there, we can collect at the verbal stage for the poem. First one, verbal stage, it's about close reading. You are going to talk about the paradoxes and contradictions. First we took the final line. That is the main idea you have to take. It's not going to be the first line first, commenting on the first stanza first, as we normally do in our traditional interpretations. That's not needed. You are trying to see things at the verbal stage. You want some paradoxes and contradictions for that. As this poem contains that, we are in search of that, and we see that, we find that only at the final line of the poem. So you start talking about that. You are not keeping it for later. You don't say that, okay, let me talk about the first few lines, first stanzas, and then we will go to the final stage. No. You start talking about that itself. Okay. So this is the way it goes like. So after the final line talks like, after the first death, there is no other. I gave you the example regarding a classroom with more than 5 students, a teacher giving some quiz or something, and on behalf of the mark or something, she assigns the position like first, second, third and fourth. If other students are not there, you should not talk about position even. But here it is going to be, after the first death, there is no other. It says like. But that is the statement that contradicts and refutes itself. It contradicts. We cannot accept such a statement. Okay. And next one, it was about the combination of never until. Never closes the possibility. I will never do that. I never do that. So that it's already over. There is no other talk after that. But until is definitely something that talks about a possibility, an expectation, a continuity. All these provisions are there. Wait until I come. If a person says so definitely it's not about never. It is going to be again. It is going to happen again. This is the way how to think in terms of until, never. Those combination itself is problematic, and how language is giving you tension, confusion. They want to show the confusion at the surface level, to bring back that up, bring that to outward, bring those outward. That's it. Then last we saw the binary oppositions getting reversed. Binary oppositions deliberately getting reversed, and how it is a weapon in deconstruction. They take it as a weapon for challenging the power structures. Okay, so this is the way the first stage of the poem comes to, first analytical stage of the poem comes to an end, like a verbal, textual and linguistic. And second stage, it's textual stage. We will talk about that in the next session. Thank you.